Hi there, my name's Stuart Everly-Wilson and I'm delighted to have been invited by WestWords to read a few pages from my debut novel, Low Expectations. To tell you a little bit about my book, it's set in a little suburb of Western Sydney that no longer exists, namely North Auburn. Much of that suburb, that was to be found north of Parramatta Road and south of Derby Street, Silverwater, the one I grew up in, was flattened to make way for the M4 motorway, and over the years much else of the suburb, including the house I grew up in, has suffered the same fate, along with, very sadly, the awe-inspiring Gothic industrial architecture that used to surround our house and that I loved so much as a kid. I set Low Expectations in North Auburn partly to pay homage to everything that has disappeared from what was once a small outlier of the 2144 postcode, but which is now part of the new expanded Silverwater with a postcode of 2128, if you're interested. The story takes place in 1975 and focuses on a fierce 15-year-old boy named Devon Destri, who, aside from trying to uncover the true story of his origins, is busy engineering a revenge to punish his pet bully, Peter Novotny, after a very brutal attack on his best friend, Big Tammy. When I began writing Low Expectations, I, as the writer, gave my hero Devon three things. I gave him a disability, I gave him a street to live on, and I gave him a bully. Then I set him loose on the page, and he, taking a few things from me on the way, though not my hair, told me this very raw story of the times. I'm proud to read a few pages of it for you, as I love Devon and my origins in this little suburb that not so many of you may ever have heard of. I'm going to read from quite early on in Low Expectations, when our hero introduces the reader to Peter Novotny, his hated bully, and very importantly, to his bully's mother, Mrs. Novotny, the most beautiful woman that North Auburn has ever known, and someone who Devon becomes compellingly infatuated with, and who, as the tale progresses, discovers she has been tricked by Devon to become instrumental in his plan to take down her son, his hated nemesis. Okay, so I'm going to read from page 32. As I've already made more than clear, I hate Peter Novotny. More than any other irritant in my fucked up life so far, his snarling ugly face has been a constant reminder to keep on guard at all times, because when you least expect it, he'll appear in the playground to trip you over, imitate your walk for the amusement of any witnesses, or to assist your face into the nearest meat pie with sauce. He sure has it in for people who limp. And though he is just a bully, and stupid too, with his above-average sporting ability, he's always been a favourite of some of the teachers at John Smith High, who respect his ability to represent the school at district-level football and cricket. It sure is a shame that being an aggressive bullying moron isn't an organised sport too, because he could take that to state level and really do the school proud. When he's not busy playing summer sport, winter sport, before school sport, after school sport, or sport on the weekend, my pet bully spends whatever time he has left with his father in their shop, where you'll never see his mother. She takes in sewing, and everyone knows she makes all of the really nice clothes she wears. If Peter sees me in the shop, he'll never say boo to me. But if he sees me near his house walking past, minding my own business, he'll hiss at me. "Move on, retard." "Fuck off, retard. What are you looking at, retard?" In a very fearful manner, and not that he scares me, but something about me I've known for quite a while now terrifies the shit out of him. He'll snap at me like a bull terrier watchdog on a chain that's guarding that house like there's something inside that must never be found out. Could it be his beautiful mother he's warning me away from? Or is it something else? I was wondering just that very thing only 2 months ago when I spied his mother at work in her garden. She's easily the most attractive woman that North Auburn has ever known, with friendly unlined skin and wavy thick hair that she often wears in a French roll or secured with nice combs behind her head. That afternoon, I noticed, her hair was how I like to see it most, escaped from captivity and dozing half asleep on her shoulders without a care in the world. And then there's her tits. How Mr. Novotny ever got a wife as beautiful as her, I'll never know. And how she could have given birth to someone as rotten as Peter, well, I guess there's just no explaining anything in this world except that in a competition for survival between beauty and ugly, better put your money on ugly. Anyway, that afternoon, watching her at work pruning a shrub, with my loathsome enemy nowhere about, I forgot for a minute about anything ugly. The rare side of Mrs. Novotny was so refreshing around here, it was like the experience of seeing her could be compared to a man in need of water, suddenly stumbling upon a clear running stream. And so thirstily was I drinking from it, I tripped over my own 2 feet. Mrs. Novotny heard me hit the ground at a front gate and hurried to my aid, worried I might be hurt. I let her help me up and she dusted me down, and then out of the blue she asked if I would like to come inside for a cool drink. I was wide-eyed at the invitation and knew it would be safer to decline, but I was thirsty. And, as I knew that Peter was elsewhere fighting it out with some ball or other, I nodded yes. Mrs. Novotny smiled, removed her gardening gloves, and shaking her half-asleep hair awake from its nap, led me into the house through the enclosed side porch, where there was a tall grandfather clock. It was a real wog house with lots of lace, pictures, and the upholsteries all really elaborately patterned. Mum's and my place is very plain, with just a healthy layer of grime everywhere, the main feature. This house had lots of ornaments, polar bears, elephants, deer astride a large mantel clock, and birds, like some Noah's Ark of porcelain. When she led me into the kitchen, I saw a little further down the hall a door with a poster of the Western Sydney Magpies football team on it and a large "Trespassers will be prosecuted" sign. I realised this was the room of my enemy, where he would sleep at night and, while alone, pick disappointedly at his face. Small talk is not my strong point, and Mrs. Novotny must have known this already, but what I hadn't realised was how hard she was to understand with her European accent and her flimsy sentences, trailing off like she was ashamed to finish them. So many things to dust and all the trucks out there, she said as she pulled out a chair for me. Why do you have so many clocks, I asked, noticing yet another one on the kitchen wall. Maybe time is not so decorative to warrant them all, but how will I prove it is not standing still without them, she said. Her answer was strange, and I blushed. She dug into a tub of ice cream, put a scoop into a tall glass of ginger beer, and placed it in front of me. Then she started talking like a normal person, asking me about school and my mother, about how her job was going. I nodded, shook my head, and looked to the floor. I was nervous and probably a little too fascinated by the tight summer top she was wearing. It had a small collar and a little tie that fell into her cleavage. I toyed with my straw, wondering just how angry my being there would make her son. Do you like the drink, she asked. I smiled and nodded that I did. You don't say much, do you, Devon? I shook my head. She looked closely at me and caused me to blush again. You don't have so many friends, maybe. I sipped my drink. I know what that's like, she said. Krenek is my friend and Big Tammy, I declared. Ah, Mr. Krenek. Of course, she replied. Do you know him, I asked. Oh, yes, I know him, but it is my husband who thinks he enjoys a friendship with him. I was curious to hear where this was going, but then she changed the subject. What about my son, Peter? Do you like him? Just the mention of his name caused my brain to hurt. He's okay, I smiled. We don't hang out or anything. I took a secret moment to enjoy sitting in the nice kitchen with my drink, being privately entertained by my pet bully's mother. But the daring of it caused a wire to loosen in me. Mrs. Novotny leaned in close to refill my glass, and the sight and smell of her caused an electric current to surge up the inside of my legs. Attempting to force down an increasingly cramped reproductive organ, I suddenly spasmed and sent the glass toppling onto the floor. Yet again my stupid body had let me down. I froze, and then suddenly, like a porcelain figurine brought to life, got to my feet and bolted from the ark as fast as I could. Mrs. Novotny was the nicest, kindest lady in Ascot Street. She pleaded with me not to go. "It's all right, Devon. No harm done. Don't go," she cried after me. But I ran from her kind words like they were stones thrown by her son, hating everything, my stupid body, my stupid luck, my stupid street with no flat footpaths, the Stapleton's dog which ran after me, and my stupid dick for cramping like it had. That's all I'm going to read. Thanks again to WestWords for inviting me to participate and for taking an interest in my novel, Low Expectations.